I used to think trust died with a shout. In my marriage, it died to notifications. I'm Nate Granger, 41, systems administrator at a healthcare network in Raleigh. I spend my days babysitting servers and herding permissions, the world's least glamorous shepherd. My wife was my wife, is Lila, 39, HR coordinator at a tech company that sells culture like a product. Hoodies, kombucha taps, pastel slide decks about people first. My younger brother, Arthur, is 38, a paramedic with a habit of rescuing broken things. For years, he was default family. He mowed our lawn when my back went out, rewired the porch light that blew fuses every storm, picked up our daughter from soccer when my pager screamed. Lila used to call him our guardian angel. I believed her. I didn't plan to become the guy who understands HR policy more intimately than his wife. I didn't plan to learn what Apple Watch telemetry looks like when it isn't yours. But here we are. The story starts in little clicks. A calendar ping for an after-hours sync. A Slack notification with the tone she never set for me. The smell of hotel lobby on a scarf that otherwise smells like lemon, and a brand of laundry detergent HR folks recommend in a newsletter twice a year. And then, like most breaks, it becomes a clean line you can draw in marker. December in Raleigh looks like someone tried to hang Christmas lights on humidity. The company Lila worked for had a tradition, a Christmas retreat, that was retreat in the sense that you leave your house and pretend team building can fix what budget meetings break. They'd booked a lodge near Jordan Lake 2 nights, no spouses to avoid distraction, which is HR code for we haven't thought this through. Lila packed a bag with sweaters she never wears and said, "It's mostly workshops, babe. Curfew at 10. I'll send you photos." I said, "Have fun," because married people often say the thing that causes the least turbulence. Then, I printed a server rack diagram and highlighted the wrong part twice because my brain had started to feel like a browser with too many tabs. The first photo came at 7 p.m. Lila in front of a fireplace with 3 coworkers, hot cocoa, and the kind of grin that means someone said something risky and everyone pretended not to hear. The second came at 9:30. Twinkle lights on a dock, the water a smear, a caption, Team Magic. The third didn't come at all. Instead, my phone vibrated at 2:13 a.m. A calendar alert to my shared family account. Morning icebreakers, 7,030. I rolled over and saw the glow of her nightstand empty. The bed holds shapes even after the people leave. You can't unknow that once you've felt it. We'd set up family sharing because parenting in 2020's America means your life arrives in a stack of apps, schedules, carpools, permission slips, password vaults. When Lila got her Apple Watch, I added it to the household devices like I add printers to the network, map, name, forget. She paired it to her iPhone, but she never fully unpaired it from the family health data panel. It wasn't a hack. It was maintenance neglected. Weeks earlier, she'd asked me to troubleshoot why her stand rings weren't syncing. I'd fixed it and told myself I'd remove my visibility later. I didn't. Funny how the to-dos that matter arrived disguised as chores. Friday of the retreat, her watch registered a cardio spike at 1058 a.m., followed by a location change across the lodge campus to a block of rooms not assigned to her department. Then a drop in heart rate that looked like sleep, except the movement log said otherwise. Up again at 3007, a stroll to the parking lot, a geofence exit at 3000 mine, return at 4009. The health app is indifferent to your narrative. It cares only that your body moved where and when and how hard. Compassionate data, I once joked to my team. Turns out the compassion is for the observer. I didn't open Slack. I didn't touch her phone. I did what I am trained to do. I looked only where I had permission. The shared family photo stream showed a burst from someone else's iPhone at 2031 a.m. A group shot on the dock again, but zooming in you could see someone's reflection in a window. An overlap of bodies, a hand, not where it should be. It felt like reading a log file with a bug hiding under a cheerful status message. The next morning, Lila texted, "Icebreakers were fun. We did 2 truths and a lie. Ha ha ha." I stared at the sentence long enough to memorize the cruelty of its capacity to be both nothing and everything. Sunday afternoon, the group returned, and Lila came home with the smell of outdoors forced through hotel HVAC. She kissed my cheek, hugged our daughter Harper, 11, and said, "They had a bonfire. Arthur swung by to bring us more marshmallows." I blinked because the lodge was 40 minutes from his station. "He was on the North Chatham shift," she added, reading my face. "He dropped them at the gate. He's a saint." Arthur texted later, "Saw your girl. FYI, long night, campfire smoke, HR therapy. You okay?" I typed and erased 3 replies. I settled on, "Thanks, man," because I didn't have synonyms for suspicion that didn't sound like accusations. I asked Arthur to meet me for coffee on Tuesday because I am not a man who detours forever. We sat at a place near Wade Avenue where the muffins are large enough to be a dare. He wore his paramedic navy and the look he gets when he's waiting to see if a joke is permitted. "You dropped off marshmallows?" I asked, smiling like this was the lightest conversation we'd have this year. "Yeah," he said. "They were out. Lila texted me. I was on a call nearby, so I swung by." "She texted you," I repeated, as if the placement of pronouns could fix the structure. "You were sleeping," he said. "I figured it was nothing. If it was something, you'd ask." He looked at me carefully. Arthur doesn't handle delicate objects with the caution of someone who fears breaking them. He handles them like he's rebuilt them before and knows where the screws go. "Did you go in?" I asked. "No," he said. "I dropped them with someone at the gate. Looked like a facilities guy. I left." He sipped his coffee. "Nate, if you need me to be a witness, tell me now. Don't make me a confessional." I looked at my brother and saw our childhood, 2 boys hiding in a closet while our parents went 13 rounds over money, opening the door when the silence got weird, both of us vowing to live simpler. He found adrenaline in ambulances. I found it in back-end dashboards at 3 a.m. I used to think we escaped. Turns out the past doesn't chase. It waits where it knows you'll pass. "I don't need a witness," I said. "I need facts." "Then gather them," he said. "That's what you do." Small bells started ringing. Not alarms. Bells. Lila switched her phone's text tone for me to the default I've never liked. She moved a framed photo off the mantle, the one of the 3 of us in Curé Beach, Arthur holding Harper like a sack of flour while she cackled. She started bringing home work lanyards with HR, printed on them like a battalion flag. "December is wild," she said. "People cry more. The retreats help." 2 days later, my inbox pinged with a forwarded company policy from a friend who works at Lila's company. No fraternization between employees and direct or indirect reports. Restrictions extended to relationships likely to create a perception of favoritism. Open relationships must be disclosed to HR. The friend wrote, "You didn't get this from me." I read it twice, then again, like a manual you didn't know you'd need. Slack is a strange animal. It gives an illusion of privacy in public channels and an illusion of permanence in DMs that isn't real. I didn't have access to Lila's workspace, but I did have access to our home network and on our shared desktop. Harper's school machine, there was a downloads folder with a handful of files Lila had saved weeks earlier to work on the holiday party from home. Among them, a PowerPoint named Holiday Retreat Schedule, .tx, which included session names, speaker notes, and in the comments pane, a string of Slack-style shorthand addressed to CL. The creative lead, After Hours Suite, is D216. Keep quiet, LOL. I stared at Lowell until it read like a confession signed in lowercase. Evidence builds itself if you hold still. Uber receipts populated our joint credit card log because Lila had put the card in the app. Saturday at 32 a.m., a trip from the lodge to a chain hotel 12 minutes away. Sunday at 6:11 a.m., a trip back. The bank categorized both as travel. Truth and accounting share a talent for labels. I made a folder called Proof and then renamed it Proof Stack because that looked more like a project I could finish. 10 pages. That was my private spec, enough to be factual without being theatrical. I typed a cover sheet I hoped to never write: report of potential fraternization and policy violation. Anonymous reporter. December 21. I included the exact lines from policy. I attached screenshots of Slack comments from the PPT's embedded notes. I exported the Apple Watch activity overview with timestamps for the lodge nights. I added Uber receipt PDFs. I inserted 2 photos from the retreat's public album where Lila's hand hovered too familiarly near CL. His lanyard turned around like a teenager's baseball cap. I transcribed her calendar invites, after hours debrief, morning alignment, and cross-referenced them to access logs a former coworker in facilities shared after I asked a lazy question about their badge system for research. No hacking, no keylogging, just gravity. This is where people expect fireworks. I gave the universe a pilot light. I used the company's published compliance portal, the link Lila herself had sent me 3 times in our marriage when she was proud of her job. Compliance doesn't love drama, I wrote in the summary. It loves facts. I uploaded the stack, clicked anonymous, and closed the tab. Then I closed my laptop and sat on the porch where our Christmas lights still looked like they believed. The temptation to burst into our living room and yell is real. The discipline not to is a muscle you don't know you have until it surprises you. I made dinner. I asked Harper about math. I pressed Lila's back when she said her shoulders hurt, and she leaned into my palm like the old days, and for a second my body forgot anything ever changed. At bedtime, I checked the server status page I maintained for work, even though I wasn't on call. The green lights calmed me. Facts are green lights you can breathe by. 3 days passed, like a polite storm. Then my phone lit up with a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail because the only people who hide their numbers are collectors and compliance. The transcript came through in seconds. Hello, this is Michelle from People Operations. We're calling in response to a report received via our compliance portal regarding potential policy violations at the holiday retreat. We've initiated an internal review. Could you please contact us to clarify certain factual points? We can preserve your anonymity. I stood in the break room at work holding a coffee I no longer wanted. My reflection in the microwave looked 10 pounds heavier with decision. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. Clarification would be the audit trail of their own making badge readers, expense reports Slack exports HR could pull with its own keys. I had given them the tune. They could play the rest. My job wasn't to conduct their orchestra. My job was to decide my life. Lila noticed the air shift in a house the way animals do when power lines hum. "You're quiet," she said that night, folding a sweatshirt I'd bought her in Asheville before I knew what the next Christmas would hold. "I'm tired of the sound of myself," I said, which was true and not the truth she asked for. She took my hand. "Arthur said you seemed off when you had coffee." I swallowed a hot rock. "Arthur and I are fine," I said. "He's not your cover, Lila." Her eyes snapped, then softened. "He's my friend," she said. "He cares about us." "He cares about me," I said. "You made him a witness without asking." Silence settled like dust in a room we'd vacuumed yesterday. She dropped my hand and busied herself with nothing. I watched her put away a mug in the wrong cabinet. I didn't correct her. I was in the business of stopping corrections. I didn't tell her about the compliance call. I didn't tell her about the 10-page stack. I called a mediator instead. Her name was Charlene, apparently. Charlene is the patron saint of mediation everywhere, and she spoke with the cadence of someone who had learned how to slow rooms without clocks. "Co-parenting only?" she asked. "No fight over who did what with whom?" "No fight," I said. "No theater. We have one kid. She deserves dignity." Charlene said, "We love dignity," and the way she said, "we made me feel like I was joining a better team." The next morning, HR called again. But this time, they called Lila. I was in my office at the hospital swapping out a faulty NIC when my phone vibrated with a one-word text, "Call." I didn't. 30 minutes later, she stood in my doorway, cheeks over rouge like she'd tried to paint warmth over fever. "Someone reported me," she said. I waited. I waited. "Compliance," she said. "They said they're investigating. They said there are screenshots from Slack, photos." She blinked too fast. Did you do that?" "Company policy is public," I said softly, "and not because it's pretty." Her lips trembled and then steadied. "Whoever did it," she said, "they want to ruin me." "No," I said. "They want to remind your company its rules apply to everyone." She sat in the chair by my desk, the one residents use when they need me to open a firewall, and looked smaller than I'd ever seen her look. "It was a retreat," she whispered. "It was just..." She swallowed. "I didn't plan it." "Who calls consequences cruelty?" I said gently. "Someone who planned impunity." She flinched, like the words had a weight. Our eyes found the floor together. "Michelle from People Ops said, 'We've initiated an internal review,'" she said, and laughed once without mirth. "Do you hear that voice when you sleep now? Because I do." I did not ask who "we" included. I didn't ask if CL had also received the call. I didn't ask if she wanted me to console her. I asked the only question that mattered for the rest of our lives. Will you sit with me and a mediator and build a plan for Harper that isn't a battlefield? She nodded, eyes wet, and for a second, I saw the girl I met at a Halloween party in 208 dressed as Rosie the Riveter, who said, "We can do it," and meant it about rent and groceries and vows. Then the second passed, and we were two parents in a hospital IT office with a broken NIC and a broken marriage and a child who needed a map. We met Charlene at a converted bungalow near Cameron Village, where the rooms smelled like tea and dry erase markers. "No autopsies," she said at the start. "We build life forward." She had us write 5 rules for ourselves on index cards. Mine were boring in a way that felt like survival. Don't badmouth. Don't use schedules as weapons. Answer texts about Harper within an hour. Share school calendars. No partners introduced for 6 months. Lila wrote the same list with different punctuation and one addition. Nate can pick up from my mom's without coming inside if I'm there. The specificity felt kind. A preemptive diffusing of a grenade no one would throw. Between sessions, compliance did what compliance does. They pulled badge logs. They exported Slack channels. They interviewed people who don't owe anyone anything except the truth. Michelle called Lila to inform her she was being placed on administrative leave pending review. "This isn't a determination of guilt," she said. "It's a step to preserve integrity." Lila cried into a dish towel while I made grilled cheese because comfort doesn't disappear just because utility demands change. The creative lead, CL, went on leave to focus on family, according to an email Lila forwarded me without comment. HR as a profession believes in neutral language like it's a sacrament. I respect that. I also respect the rage some people feel when nouns dodge responsibility. The world needs both. The world is messy. People are messier. I told my brother in the parking lot of the Food Lion because that's how men like me tell their brothers things, near carts, hands in pockets. "I filed a report," I said. "I didn't name you. I didn't mention marshmallows. I didn't need to." Arthur exhaled. "Thank you," he said. "I love you. I love Harper. He stopped, jaw working. "I like Lila less right now. That's allowed." "It's allowed," I said. "I'm not burning bridges. I'm posting weight limit signs." He laughed in spite of himself. "That's a Nate line," he said. "Little brother approved." Lila moved into her sister's townhouse for a while, which Harper called sleepover life, because kids are generous with names. We did handoffs at school. We texted at 10 p.m. About whether the hash browns at the cafeteria counted as a vegetable, we agreed they did not. We met with a child therapist who told us things we already knew and needed to hear anyway. Kids don't need adults who never err. Kids need adults who repair. 2 weeks later, Lila texted at midday. "Can you talk?" I stepped into a stairwell and called. Her voice was sanded down. "They concluded the review," she said. I resigned. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. Losing work is losing routine, identity, an ID badge that answers a question before you're asked. "They offered me a chance to stay without CL," she said. "But the whispering would be louder than the work." She sniffed. "I told them to say I'm prioritizing family." She laughed a little. "Policy loves euphemisms." "Policy loves nouns. It can count," I said softly. "People love verbs." "I'm not going to beg you to stay," she said. "That would be asking you to lie. I'm not going to accuse you of trying to ruin my career. That would be me pretending I didn't throw a match. I'm going to say thank you for not making a spectacle. I'm going to say I'm sorry. And then I'm going to hang up and cry. And then I'm going to open LinkedIn because I am not a cautionary tale. I am a person who made a choice and is living with it." "I'll see you at 5 for pickup," I said. "We're making tacos. You can come in for 5 minutes. The cat misses you." She cried harder. "5 minutes," she said. "Thank you." The night before our mediation's final session, I laid my house keys on the kitchen table and looked at them like they were museum pieces. Metal that had unlocked chapters. I wrote a note on a yellow legal pad because yellow legal pads have held my hand through worse. "I don't think love disappears. I think it changes jobs. Mine needs a new job now. I'm leaving you the house for a while because Harper's route to school shouldn't change the same week her mother's email signature does. I'm moving into a rental on Oberlin. I'll take my books and my server rack and the coffee grinder. I wish you courage. I wish you the kind of quiet that repairs. I wish you luck." When Lila arrived, she saw the keys first. She picked them up, put them down, ran her finger along the jagged edge of one like she was testing the teeth of a thing that had bitten her before. "You don't have to go yet," she said. "I know," I said. "I'm choosing to go before I'm resentful. I don't want to live here as your rival." She nodded. "Thank you," she whispered, "for leaving me dignity to hold." "You didn't leave me none," I said, and tried to smile. "You just misplaced it for a while." She surprised me then by laughing, the kind that breaks and mends at the same time. "Compliance doesn't love drama," she said, wiping her eyes. "It loves facts." "I'm not burning bridges," I said. "I'm posting weight limit signs." "Who calls consequences? Cruelty," she said, "is someone who planned impunity." We had turned our anchors into call and response by accident. It felt right. It felt like the last thing a broken marriage can sometimes give you, a language that will let you co-parent without drawing blood. Charlene stamped our plan with the bureaucratic equivalent of a blessing. We signed consent for shared legal custody, shared physical custody, alternating holidays, birthdays split by pi, and a clause that we wrote together. Any monitoring of each other's locations or devices is prohibited except in emergencies, as defined by both parents in writing. I watched Lila sign that with a steadiness that looked like respect. On my first night in the rental, the place smelled like paint and other people's decisions. I set up my server rack against the wall and labeled cables, because labeled cables are a prayer if you squint. I texted Arthur a photo. He replied with a thumbs up, and then, minutes later, a paragraph that read like, "Brotherhood. Proud of you for doing it quiet. You didn't make me lie. You didn't make her a villain. You didn't make you a saint. You did the math. You posted the sign. The bridge stands." I went to bed without my keys on my bedside table. I slept. The sound in the morning was not sadness. It was absence. There's a difference, and it matters. Months have passed. Lila found contractor work piecing together onboarding systems for small companies that still think HR is just hiring and firing. She picks up Harper from my place on Wednesdays, and we exchange notes about spelling tests and a girl in Harper's class who cries when she reads out loud, because reading out loud is a horror show for kids and adults alike. CL's wife posted a photo of a beach and a caption about forgiveness that made me feel like a stranger in a church. And I hope whatever peace looks like to her arrives like a tide that keeps the sand and doesn't take too much. I still fix servers. I still run in the mornings like a man who needs the air to slap his face. I still avoid surprise. When Christmas rolled back around, Harper and I made paper snowflakes and taped them to the window. Lila came over and we ate cookies that burn the bottoms because some ovens just do that. We played a board game where you can quietly give up territory without anyone calling you a coward. I drove them home afterward in a car that no longer tracks anything I shouldn't see, and when I set the parking brake, I realized I was safe. People will ask why I didn't blow it up, why I didn't tell her boss or post screenshots or bring Arthur to court and pin his honesty to a corkboard. Why I let compliance do the part of the job that wears a tie. Why I put keys on a table instead of on a legal pad with demands. The answer is simple and not glamorous. I didn't want blood. I wanted respect. And the only way I keep respect for myself is by refusing to trade dignity for applause. What remains is a house that holds our kids' laughter and our mistakes without collapsing. What remains is a brother who will still come by to fix the porch light and then sit on the steps holding a beer while we talk about nothing. What remains is a woman who did a thing she shouldn't have and then chose not to lie about it anymore. What remains is me, a man who knows how to build a proof stack on 10 pages and a life that takes more. What matters more to you, winning in public or protecting yourself quietly? Would you have filed an anonymous compliance report if it meant avoiding a public war? Tell me in the comments, and if you want more of these stories, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.